So hello guys, what's up and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's me, your girl Barrister Neze, and this is Nezeville. Today's story broke my heart. It shattered it to tiny little pieces. I have researched, read and narrated a lot of ugly stories that I often believe that I'm immune to the horrifying feeling that bad news brings. Then boom, another one comes up, and then I'm quickly reminded that I can never, ever get accustomed to evil. Today's true life story reveals betrayal, deceit, and foul play in its crudest form. It reveals man's inhumanity to man, or should we be more specific, to woman. It is a story of a wife called Onyidamola, her husband Babatunde, and another woman, Bumi Rebecca Adedepo. I will give account of this story as narrated by Onyidamola. Onyidamola and the husband of her youth, Tunde, had been married for 12 whole years. They had a beautiful life. Resident in the United States, they had chains of businesses running, 3 amazing children of both male and female gender, and a peaceful marriage. What more could they possibly be asking of God, if not prosperity, long life, and good health? Onyidamola and her husband Tunde were on some sort of vacation in Dubai sometime in April last year, bonding, loving up and soaking up the sun, enjoying what Damola thought were moments of marital bliss. Quickly remembering that they were also parents and not just lovebirds, the couple decided to take a break as lovers and play mom and dad a bit. So they called home via video call to talk to their kids and check up on them. They used her husband's mobile phone. In the course of the video call, gisting and chatting and laughing off, a message popped up on Tunde's phone. It said, "Every time I see her picture, it makes me feel sad." Onyidamola's heart skipped 2 beats. A freezing chill ran down her spine. She asked her husband, "Who was that? And what was that message about?" Her husband was prompt to brush it with a wave of hand, claiming that it was some random girl from his past who wouldn't leave him alone and who kept on harassing him. He denied having any sort of relationship with that person. You see, there are very few things in this world that do not lie, aside from Shakira's hips. And one of those things is the intuition of a woman. Onyidamola tried so hard to believe her husband without success. She knew that something was certainly amiss. Even without being sure of what it was, Onyidamola cried and cried her eyes out. She couldn't contain the thoughts of what she was about to find out. Upon returning to the US, Onyidamola still could not shake off the thought of that message that had dropped on her husband's phone. With a very heavy heart, she reached out to Tunde's parents, her parents-in-law, narrating what had transpired and voicing out her concerns. Their response was even more dismissive than their sons. They told her not to worry her pretty head at all about things that did not exist. They dismissed it in all its entirety and told her to put her mind at rest. And then something happened. Her God was at work. Now, in the process of Tunde's mother trying to put Onyidamola's heart at ease, she mentioned that the lady in question was merely a business partner. But Tunde quickly interjected. He didn't allow her to finish. He silenced her from saying any further. And the bell inside Onyidamola rang. The contradictions, the inconsistencies, the ambiguity. It was glaring. Her husband had told her that it was a stalking ex, and there his mother was, saying that it was a business partner. Onyidamola sure could tell a white lie when she heard one. Driven by a desperate need for the truth, Onyidamola was left with no other option but to check her husband's phone. She read through his WhatsApp messages and found that he was in close and constant communication with some particular contacts. She took one of the numbers and dialed. A woman picked. Oyedamola engaged this woman, whose name was saved as Fisayo on her husband's phone, but whose name in reality was Bumi Rebecca Adedapo. She asked her of the kind of relationship that she shared with her husband, but Bumi denied knowing him at all. She said that she did not have any kind of relationship or connection with the man. At this point, Oyedamola was filled with feelings of despair and hopelessness. She knew that there was something fishy, but she just couldn't place her hands on anything substantial. Her husband wouldn't talk to her, his parents wouldn't open up, and the voice behind the WhatsApp messages wouldn't budge. She had met a brick wall in her quest to find out the truth, but yet that nagging feeling wouldn't go away. On the 20th of June last year in 2022, Tunde informed his wife, Oyedamola, that he needed to travel to Nigeria, their home country, for business. She wasn't quite welcoming of the idea. She didn't want him to go, but he did a good job at convincing her by showing her a bank facility document, which reveals that a loan of over 50 million had just been disbursed to them for their business. He emphasized the need for him to be on ground, supervise the project, monitor the activities of the workers, put his eyes down and champion the project. At this point, she didn't have any other option but to agree for him to go. Now let me chip this in here. Before this said loan came, before it was approved by the bank, Tunde had tried convincing Damola for them to use the equity on their home, on their property, on their house as collateral to fund his business. A business she thought they jointly owned. Let us just say she's indeed one lucky person for declining that request. So back to the story. So on the appointed date, her husband picked up his bags and jetted off to Nigeria, leaving her with a sick child who had just contracted the deadly COVID-19 disease and was sick and down, running very high fever. She was quite displeased that her husband had left her and her children in that vulnerable and overwhelming state. She admitted that she was so upset that she was not taking his calls. Rather than getting distraught and worried, I can bet he must have heaved a big sigh of relief. Whew. That distance sure would have availed him the time, space, and opportunity to carry out all that he left home to do, as it will later be discovered that Tunde was neither in Nigeria nor was he executing any business contract. On the contrary, he was in the beautiful city of Dubai, lounging and enjoying his life in the company of another woman who we will soon discover was his wife, his second wife. So on the 1st of July 2022, a day that may have started like every other normal day for Oyedamola, but was one that would change her life forever, she got a call from her friend, asking her about the whereabouts of her husband and if their marriage was troubled in any way. Damola answered in the negative. She was like, there is no problem. My husband just traveled to Nigeria for business. We are fine. We don't have any issues. My husband will be back soon. The marriage does not have any problem. What is the matter, girl? Babe, speak to me. What is it? At this point, Oyedamola's friend's mouth was too heavy to speak. She dropped the call and sent her a picture. A picture that almost made Oyedamola's heart stop. In that picture was her husband of 12 years. Her man, her king, her pride, her partner, father of her 3 children, dressed in white and pink coordinating outfits with another woman. Hands wrapped around her hips, beaming with smiles, looking so in love. Oyedamola was totally destabilized, blank and confused, lips trembling, hands shaking. She called her husband to ask, but instead of addressing the issue on ground, the grave issue on ground, rather, he had the audacity to deviate and began interrogating her on why she had not been taking his calls. When he saw that his wife was not shifting grounds, how could she anyways? He began explaining that the lady was only celebrating her birthday and that was why they were dressed in matching outfits. And when she asked him why you, of all the guests, was the one that had to coordinate outfits with her, he began apologizing. And she was like, hold up. What exactly are you apologizing for? What are you telling me? And so she hung up the call. And shortly after that conversation, her friend called back that photograph had been taken down from the Instagram page of the photographer who covered that shoot. Obviously, they had reached out to them and demanded they take down the picture immediately. They'd had no idea that the photographer was going to post their pre-wedding photos online. But you know what they say? When a cup is full, it will certainly overflow. At this point, Oyedamola had a fair grasp of what had played out in her marriage, and she went into full-blown FBI mode. Guys, the CIA's skills is nothing in comparison to a woman who is out to investigate an act of infidelity. So Oyedamola started digging, started canvassing, started searching. She spoke to a friend who knew a friend who was a mutual friend to this woman. She started connecting all the dots. And that source opened a can of worms that led to several shocking discoveries that would leave Oyedamola reeling with pains. She discovered that her husband of 12 years, who she was under the impression she had the perfect marriage with, was married to another woman for 1 full year, and that he had traveled to go celebrate their 1-year wedding anniversary. She was dumbfounded, struggling to digest the obvious truth that was unfolding before her very eyes. She reached out once again to her mother-in-law, a woman she had loved and cared for. She cried out to her, begging her to tell her all she knew about what was happening. But Mama insisted that all she was hearing were all lies, and that she should ignore wicked people feeding her with false information to break her marriage. She was so disappointed and distraught. So day and night, she would call her husband and call this other woman, crying bitterly, asking questions, digging for the truth. And it was at this point that she discovered that her husband was not in Nigeria, but was in Dubai, the beautiful city of Dubai, on a lover's getaway with Bumi. And because her husband was still insisting that he was in Nigeria, she video called him and asked him to show her around the hotel room where he was in Nigeria. A request he blatantly refused to. She broke down in uncontrollable tears. The truth was obvious, despite she didn't want to believe it. Determined to know the whole truth and the extent of what has happened, she started contacting more people, and then she came across pictures of her husband's white wedding ceremony with this other woman, including images and videos shared by the wedding planner with their hashtag AA till infinity. Sad, hot, and broken, she asked Tunde not to return to their home when he gets back to the US, as the deceit and betrayal was too much and too fresh. Tunde still came in company of his brother. He showed no remorse. Rather, he asked with audacity to be given some time to settle with the other woman, Bumi, as their relationship has already progressed so far. Just like a drowning man grasping at straws to save his life, Tunde started faulting Oyedamola on every trivial issue. He accused her of not supporting his business. But according to Oyedamola, she had bent over backwards to demonstrate her loyalty to her husband. She would drive him to the airport and back home every 3 months when he went to Nigeria for business. She would stay alone in America, working and caring for the children while he stays in Nigeria, doing business. She recalled vividly that only on the 5th of July last year, she and the children prepared a welcome back surprise for him at the airport with balloons, cards, smiles, hugs, and kisses, not knowing that he was just arriving from a recently concluded wedding ceremony between him and his concubine. All the family business, which she thought that she jointly owned with her husband back in Nigeria, was owned by her husband and the other woman. She was not in the equation. The betrayal, hurt, deception, and pain was too much for Onyidamola to bear. She couldn't take it. It was overwhelming. She was going crazy. And so, in the interest of her sanity, she knew that she had to let go of her marriage. Let go of 12 years with 3 kids together. Let go of happily ever after. Hence, she made the difficult decision to leave the home with her children and file for the divorce. Onyidamola has said that the divorce and leaving her home and all the bitterness and drama that event created had taken a toll on her kids. They began having sleepless nights, their emotions were troubled, their grades began to drop, and their overall school performance began to suffer. She would often hear them crying in the middle of the night, and it broke her heart to shreds to see her children in such distress. Onyidamola has said that the weight of what had happened has continued to haunt every minute of her life. She's traumatized. She has faced constant spiritual attacks, getting strangled, maimed, and killed in her sleep, nightmares every day, tormenting dreams and revelations. And to make matters worse, Bumi, the other woman, had opened a fake Instagram account, following her and monitoring her every move. She claimed that this woman, working in collaboration with her husband, have promised to deal with her and ensure that she suffers. She claims that they had taken her name, the name of her mother and her children, to a diabolic coven, and that she had found all sorts of diabolic stuff, juju, in her home when she was moving out. She cried out that if anything happens to her or her children, her husband and his concubine should be held responsible. And that, my dear audience, was the painful true life story of Onyidamola, a once happy wife with a perfect home who fell victim to the greatest betrayal ever. I do not have anything to say. I'm going to leave it to you, my dear audience. A lot of arguments have risen from this case. Some people have emphasized the need for you to check your partner's mobile phone. Don't give me that bull crap of what you don't know will not kill you. Don't go and check and you will see the one, excuse me, they say. Assuming this woman didn't go through her husband's phone, she would have been in the United States living a lie while her husband will be living a double life. They encourage people, both man and woman, to check your husband's phone. As you cannot have your private parts open to your husband, then a mobile device will then be private. But some people have still insisted that for your own peace of mind and sanity, do not check your partner's phone. Where do you stand on this? Do you believe that what you do not know will not kill you? Or do you believe that it is better that I know, instead of getting life surprises that would shock me at my old age? And that any marriage that checking a phone would scare you or give you hypertension, then that marriage is not worth being into in the first place. Let me know what you think about these two beliefs in the comment section. Another set of arguments that has ensued is some people asking Onyidamola to forgive her husband and take him back in the interest of her children, especially for the fact that this other woman has not even borne him children. So cutting her off might be a bit easy with some marriage counseling and his repentance and devotion back to their marriage, and that she should try to give it another chance. While some people are like, over my dead body. This level of betrayal and deceit is unforgivable. Let me know also what you think about these two schools of thoughts in the comments section. This story has indeed sent chills down the spine of many. So guys, we have finally come to the end of today's video. If you're yet to subscribe to my channel, do hit the subscribe button, turn on your bell notifications, and stay glued for there's so much more coming your way. Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up and drop your contribution down in the comments section. It's me, your girl Barrister Neze, and this is Nezerville. I'll see you guys in my next one. For now,